Hello, closers. Welcome to How to Accurately Inspect Your Pipeline. I'm CeCe.
I'm Jeff.
I'm so excited to be here to dive into our Lead the Deal practice.
Live.
With everyone here today. Actually live. Which is fun.
I mean,
in the studio.
The last few weeks we've had some live.
They were live at a time.
They were live when we recorded them. But if you know LinkedIn Live, it's not always the easiest app to command. But this one is live.
This is live.
Yeah.
It's 11 o'clock Eastern,
Yes.
our time.
Yes.
So we can actually
great to
date
see you,
it.
by the
It's
way.
good to see you.
Yes.
And I love being in the studio. And I'm excited to talk about this topic because you spend a lot of time in our Lead the Deal practice, and it's one that has, I think, really risen in popularity for us.
Yeah.
With
Particularly in the
managers.
last year or so.
Yes, I
Big time.
totally agree. And I love talking about this topic. But before we jump in and we're talking about pipeline inspection, let's first start by setting the stage.
Yeah.
What is the difference between a deal review, pipeline inspection, forecast meeting? Like, these are terms that people throw around. They're kind of interchangeable. Reps walk into meetings. I hear all the time. They're like, I don't know what I'm going to get. So
I don't know what to prepare for.
Yeah.
And I'm glad you said reps along with managers and Lead the Deal, because this next half hour, it's not just for managers. It's not just for reps. It's for everybody. Because knowing how to inspect your own pipeline is as important as knowing how to inspect another's. And you're right, CeCe. I think that these words are used interchangeably. Is that a word?
Totally,
and
yes,
and kind of get jumbled together. This is how I always have thought of it. When we talk about a deal, we're probably also talking about a forecast. Mm-hmm. And we all know what a deal review is. We all know what a forecast review is. So a deal review is just what it sounds like. We're gonna review the strategy and the likelihood of a deal closing. And a forecast review should be a summary of all the deals that you could look at. But a pipeline review is something else. A pipeline review should not ever really take on the form of looking at any individual deal. A pipeline review should be looking at the aggregate shape or quantity of all of the deals within it. Mm-hmm. One way of looking at it is this. When I look at a deal review or a forecast, I'm talking money.
Yeah.
I'm thinking about money with my quota, and I'm thinking about money with my reps quota. But when I'm doing a pipeline review, I'm not thinking about money at all. I'm thinking about units. I'm thinking about, and this is really what's giving me the runway or the predictability of what forecasts will be in the future. So the forecast is going to tell me this month, maybe next month, depending on how good we are. But the pipeline's going to tell me the quarter. The pipeline's going to tell me 2 quarters. The pipeline's going to tell me how my new reps are ramping. The pipeline's going to tell me how the channel's doing. The pipeline's going to tell me how a new product release is doing. Pipeline gives me a crystal ball. Forecasting doesn't, but a pipeline does. So separating pipeline and deals is the first step for smart managers and smart reps to get a good handle on what they have.
Okay, so we've gotten that out of the way. But let's talk about what the second step is, which is actually to recognize what the shape of a pipeline should look like.
Yeah.
Because I think this is something that people get wrong all the time. I think you start in the world of sales, you see everywhere that like upside down funnel that we all have come to know in our careers.
Let's start there.
Loathe in our careers.
Yeah,
So
I mean,
let's talk about what does a good, healthy pipeline look like?
Yeah, so we'll start there. What should a pipeline look like? And obviously, it's industry specific, it's company specific, it's product specific. So your own mileage will vary. But healthy pipelines, to your point, CeCe, are not triangles. They're not funnels. They're not pizza wedges. They're not this notion of a V. And I understand why we've used that, because the idea of a funnel is a really good metaphor. But the problem with the visual is that it implies a 3x ratio or a 3-to-1 ratio. It implies that with every sales stage above, I need 3x the volume or 3x the deals or 3x the dollars to support the sales stage below. So if I have 7 sales stages and the last one being deals closed, when I go all the way to the top, I need as much as 3x pipeline to support it. So if I have 100K is my, let's say, monthly number, I need 300K of pipeline. If I have $1 million a year, a nut that I have to hit, I need a $3 million pipeline to support it. Now, rationally, that seems to hold some value, but if you think about it logically, it doesn't make any sense. Because logically what we're saying is, okay, if you're a rep at quota, that means 75% of your day you're working on deals that will never close. And that's laughable, because we all know that deals at reps at quota are spending virtually no time on deals that don't close.
Right.
So where's the miss? I'll tell you where the miss is. So an ideal shape of a pipeline should actually be 2 funnels. One that's really wide and one that's really narrow. And I'll explain. And I look at it like not like a funnel, but like a martini glass. And
Which is my favorite thing to look at.
Yeah, and it is.
Okay.
And I'm with you too. I like martinis too. So I'm going to do funny things with my hands to make it kind of look like a martini.
Yeah.
But that's kind of what a great pipeline looks like.
Yeah.
Up top, I have this really wide, wider than a V, wider than a funnel. Not 3x, 5x, 10x, 20x. Super wide. And why is it wide? Because I want to use math to help me. I need quantity at the top of the pipeline. This is all prospecting. This is all outreach. This is all getting prospects into the funnel. This is all what I'm trying to do around conversion rates on email and phone. This is what I'm trying to do around conversion rates around inbound. This is what I'm trying to do with my BDR and XDR and SDR function. This is what I'm trying to do with my channel.
Yep.
Here, I don't care about conversion rates because it doesn't cost me anything. Most it costs me is 1 email exchange or 1 phone call. I'm not investing a lot of time, energy, and resources into this part of the pipeline. And I don't want to overqualify. I want basically anyone with a pulse that works for a solvent company can get in my pipeline and in that early stages. So I will tolerate 1 out of 10, 1 out of 20 to close.
Got it.
But somewhere in our sales stages, we want to see a pivot where that changes dramatically.
Where do you think that is?
Well, I think it happens at discovery.
Totally.
So strong discovery is our place where we decide, as an organization, as a rep, as a manager, are we going to invest time and resources into this opportunity? So we've looked for our ICP, we've got a heartbeat, we've got a mild level of interest, we have our initial call, we're up at the top of the funnel, then we invest in an AE resource, then we invest in a demo, then we invest in an SE, then we invest in a product specialist or a channel partner or what have you. At that moment, we have to decide whether it's BANT, whether it's MedPick, or whatever it is that we use to qualify. Okay, is this something we want to pursue? And if the answer is yes, not only is the top of that pipeline's ratio no good, the old pipeline is no good either. 3x isn't good enough. Before it was too harsh. Now it's not harsh enough. And I need in the stem of that martini glass, not 3 to 1, I need 1.5 to 1, 1.25 to 1.
That's right.
So now I'm going to go from super, super, super quantity to super, super, super quality. And if you are to look at any rep over quota in your organization, and maybe it's you if you're a closer watching this now, take a look at your pipeline right now, and that's what you're going to see. Tons of unwashed, lousy opportunities at the top.
Yep.
And then post-discovery, a much smaller number. Super focused, where your predictability is high and your confidence is high. That's what we want to shoot for.
Okay, so then from a manager perspective, where should managers be spending their time in these types of inspections? So we have this big funnel at the top. We have a much more narrow focus funnel coming down. Where does the manager insert themselves? Where does the inspection begin?
The big inspection happens between the 2 funnels.
Got it.
So that idea of the entrance from top of funnel to stem. And that's generally around what we'll call either proof of concept or discovery. One of those middle stages, and you know your organization. Yeah. And look at historical data. Where do deals die? If you find that most deals die at discovery, that's your entrance point. If you find most deals die at trial, that's your entrance point. If it's most at proof of concept or demo, that's where it is. Because that's the customer will tell you. We get lots of first meetings and we struggle at trial. Okay, that's where the pipeline is. So that's where you as a manager want to focus on, do we have enough deals above it? And are we getting the conversion rates we need below it? Yeah, you got it.
Then you said something really interesting earlier. You said kind of, as a manager, you should always be looking at kind of 2 variables. There is the monetary component of it, dollars and cents, and then there is the units component. So here, when we're doing a pipeline inspection, we want to talk about units. So is this units in terms of number of meetings? Is this units in terms of number of accounts, opportunities? How does a manager actually look at this holistically?
Yeah, that's a spot on question, and we have to answer this constantly with our clients and when we're out speaking. We always think in terms of revenue. and often we think in terms of activity KPIs, but you're right, we want neither here. We want units or opportunities. And here's why. Number one, if we focus on revenue in a pipeline inspection moment, we're going to be left kind of dealing with the wings of a bell curve. So poor months and great months are going to be unhinged and overly weighted in the wrong direction. So you could have a wonderful month with a weak pipeline and a lousy month with a strong pipeline. The pipeline does not determine our forecast. So I want to divorce it from the forecast, and the easiest way to do that is to look at units. Also, another element of pipeline review, which is so powerful for managers and for managers of managers, is that pipeline growth can start to give you the leading indicator of when you want to grow your team. Mm-hmm. And units is generally the arbiter, because there's only so many deals a rep can work. Because the truth is, whether you're closing a $10,000 deal or a $100,000 deal, the $100,000 deal does not take 10x more time to close. It takes a little more time to close, but not 10x. So what happens is you start to learn how many opportunities
That's right.
in a pipeline, right, can a rep handle? Can a manager handle? So when you focus units in pipeline review meetings and in pipeline inspection, you're getting all the best of both worlds.
And best practice. Are we doing these meetings one-on-one with reps? Or are they happening in groups?
Yeah, I like this in groups. And I don't like forecast meetings in groups. So I've seen rep managers do the opposite. So they bring everybody in for a forecast meeting, and you got 6 people on a Zoom call or in a conference room, and everyone's going around the room talking about their deals, which means 5/6 of the meeting.
It's like one big story time at the library with
and
the
you're
kids.
bored out of your, you know what? I mean, who cares what Julie's deals are? I don't care if I'm the rep. Maybe I've learned something. But give me a break. I'm focused on my own deals. But pipeline reviews, see, there we all own ownership. So I don't care if you're brand new or at President's Club. Everybody owns an element of the team's pipeline. So the rep who's crushing their quota but behind on units, they're in trouble at a pipeline meeting. And you want them to feel like they're in trouble. And the newly hired rep or the rep who just got transferred, all of a sudden can be a superstar at that meeting because they can contribute to units. So yeah, I want group meetings and group accountability for that martini glass, because you know why? One person can't fix my pipeline. One person can fix my team's forecast for the month. I can have someone bring in a whale, and I can somehow get over the month, but not one person.
I was just thinking as we were saying this, like you get that rep who hits the jackpot on January 26th, and all of a sudden it's game over for them for the year, and they don't have to worry about their quota. But here, it keeps that momentum going, and I think that that's one of the things we're seeing, especially in the last year. Managers, now that so many of us are working from home or working in a hybrid world, which, okay, I say so many of us now, we've been doing it for 5 years. I think we're finally having the revelation of, I don't know what's going on day in and day out with my team in this setup that I have. Pipeline's a really good way for us to stay on top of that. So, all right, what's the cadence of it? How frequently are we doing this?
So I think this should be a relatively frequent event. It should start weekly until you as the manager feel confident that the shape and the regularity of the purge, I'll get to purge in a minute, is something you can feel like you can predict. And I'll tell you, that generally takes more than a couple quarters. So having a weekly meeting is smart. I like to do it early in the week, but not earlier than forecast meetings. Forecast meetings I rarely schedule. I always argue that the manager should never schedule a forecast meeting with a rep, because it gives the rep time to, first of all, if the rep knows they're meeting with you every week at Tuesday at 2, they're not going to update CRM until Tuesday at 1. But if they don't know when I'm going to have it, and I just say, hey, I need you for a forecast meeting in an hour, having them always on edge on when the
Hoffman team knows this so well. We know how this goes.
I'm sorry. But it works, because I want the idea is that the forecast is always fluid. The forecast is always alive. Right. But a pipeline meeting can be scheduled. So there, I like to do it fairly early, and since Fridays, as we all Hoffman disciples know, is our strongest day for prospecting, I like to have that meeting at either the end of the day on the Friday or early on a Monday, so we can capture that last push of prospecting that happens on Friday. So I think it should happen pretty frequently. But the other thing you'll want to mention, and this is where it really gets powerful, is you want to introduce entrance and exit criteria into your sales stages. So if we're going to get to this concept of 2 pipelines in one, then we can't leave it to the rep or even the manager to use like, how's the wind blowing? What's my analytical skill to determining, is this a discovery or is this a qualification? Is this a stage 3? Is this stage 4, stage 5? Yeah. We have to make the sales stages rigorous. And we do that by taking whatever our qualification method is. It might be something like the scorecard with Hoffman. It might be MedPick. It might be BANT. It might be
a combination of the 3.
Combination of 3. But having tangible entrance and exit criteria. Like, to get into this stage 3, you must have agreed to the customer must have agreed to a 30-minute meeting and invited one person and given you the cell phone number. Whatever. Having defined definition for each stage to get into a stage, and exit criteria define things to get out of a stage. You never prohibit a rep from working on a deal no matter what stage it is. So it's not a punishment. It's like, oh, I didn't advance the deal. So what? So you still work the deal no matter if it's stage 3, 4, 5, or 6. But we want to be really tough on how the deal evolves. Otherwise, we have this really kind of shaky funnel that we can never really have faith in. So having entrance and exit criteria, really critical, more critical than even in a forecast in a pipeline meeting.
So this is really important because what we just said, I think everyone knows intuitively. Like, obviously we need to have entrance and exit criteria, but for most teams that we work with, that we see in early days when we're looking at their pipeline, that entrance and exit criteria is pretty gray. Yeah. It's open to a lot of subjectivity.
Usually, and the middle stages are the most.
They're the worst.
And this is where we need to pivot. So this is exactly right.
But what Jeff just said is now we're looking at entrance and exit criteria more based on activity. What did the customer do, or what did that prospect do, versus are they your champion? And that difference is going to be a game changer for you. But let's talk about some of the examples of what exit criteria would actually look like, because I think there's some really specific things that we look at. That means, again, doesn't mean we're going to stop the deal. It doesn't mean it's a dead deal.
Right.
We're just moving it back a stage.
Yeah. So, I mean, for exit criteria, classic ones would be things like multiple demos to different departments, getting things like org charts, or getting things like NDA signed, or frankly, anything that's signed. That's a great exit criteria. Obviously, widening the audience and getting to power is classic. But also, as you mentioned, getting a champion if you're formally closing for champion. Totally. Are you getting, do you have success criteria documented on your trial? I don't like trials as exit, because you could offer a trial, the prospect says yes. Does that really showcase a change in the deal, or just a change in how the customer is interacting with you? Like, we really want to be careful with that. Now, if that trial is paid or requires a signature, okay, maybe.
That's different.
Yeah, that is different. Yeah. So what we want, to your point, CeCe, is we want to use exit criteria to represent changes in the behavior of the client or prospect. They've done something different. Not that we've offered something different, they've done something different. And it's okay. You could literally close deals out of lower sales stages. It's like, I never got the cell phone number, I never got the NDA, but they bought anyway. What does that mean? It doesn't mean anything. It means you closed it out of stage 4 instead of stage 7. No problem. It'll all come out in the math when we look at all the deals.
That's right.
The point is, we don't want to start creating a shape that doesn't reflect exactly what it is. Because what starts to happen is, if you don't reach exit criteria that you and your manager or you and your reps have determined are the right ones, what'll start to happen is the shape of the pipeline will start to bubble. And we all know what that is. You feel those bubbles that start to form in the middle. And those are very big danger signs, and we want to see them, because unlike a forecast, where we've got our own bosses to deal with, pipeline reviews are really for us and the team.
Yep.
And that lets us know, guys, this is a false pipeline. This is a pipeline with lots of deals stuck at stage 5, which tells me this is all nonsense, and we can work our tails off on these stage 5 deals, or we can go to the top wide part of the funnel. Can we pull some more stage 3s?
You got it.
And that's how healthy organizations and teams fix problems. It's not about how do we grease up the deals that are late. It's how do we find some more early deals we can pull in here.
So, okay, final piece of this.
Yeah.
for the managers watching or for the reps watching, how do we prep for these? Like, what are we doing if we're prepping for this, and what do we do if we're a manager who wants to try this with their team?
Yeah.
What are we telling them to?
So
to
let's
bring to the
start
table
with
here?
let's start with reps. You know, time blocking, you see it all over LinkedIn. It's calendar blocking. It's a very clever and smart and old way of managing your calendar. Instead of doing it by events or tasks, you do it like, I have a 2-hour prospecting block. I have a 3-hour meeting prep block. Start to block your calendar in the 2 funnel areas. Like, I'm going to be working on top of funnel, bottom of funnel. This is not the same as saying I'm working on my prospecting or I'm working on deals. The idea is that I need to increase units. So here you're less focused on a specific opportunity and more focused on a group of opportunities. So we always recommend working on top of funnel at the end of the week, end of the day, but also carve out time to work the bottom of the funnel, which means all those deals at stage 3 and 4. Are you carving out time every week that I am just focusing on all my stage 4 deals? And what can I do to maybe grease them a little to advance them or move them out? That's the first thing I'm going to do. Next thing I'm going to do is, how do I start to track units in my world?
That's right.
Because how do I condition my brain to have moments throughout the day where I'm thinking about how many deals am I working? How many deals am I starting? How many deals am I closing, including closed, no decision? And so I start, because most reps are really good at knowing I've got 50K in my pipe, I've got 100K in my pipe. Can they get to know I've got 6 deals, I've got 4 deals? Because you want to instantly know, because you want to feel that pressure of, I've got 150K on my 125K forecast, but there are only 2 deals. And you want to start to have that kind of feeling as well for the manager. Now for the manager, again, the units are important, but it's also about inspecting and having conversations with your reps that are soft in areas at the pivot. How much time are you spending in inspecting the place where the 2 pipelines meet? And that will be either discovery call, demo, or trial. Most managers are spending most of their time trying to get deals over the finish line, or maybe they join a meeting because it's a really big logo or really big opportunity. Instead, start scheduling time with your reps so you're seeing how they manage the pivot between the funnels.
Yep.
So you can see how are they taking just a generic discovery call and deciding and qualifying, yeah, I'm putting this in the stem, boss, as opposed to, nah, this deal wasn't really worth it. So spending time inspecting the entrance and exit criteria enforcement of the rep at the pivot, those are the best places to spend time.
You know, one of the things we are seeing across the board right now is there's this kind of new emphasis on coaching for managers.
Oh, yeah, you see it everywhere.
This is a perfect place for you to do that coaching. When you're looking at those pivot points across the pipeline, this is what you're like, I don't know how to coach my reps. I could listen to a couple calls over here, over there, and give them feedback on it. That's very different than, let me coach you on these specific pivot points in your pipeline where we want to see increased conversions on. So I love that.
Absolutely. And there's one other element too. I mentioned purge earlier in this stream. Start to play with auto purging. Reps start to do this. I did this as a rep even before I had a name for it. When I was an individual contributor, I would do this. And this is early days of CRM, where I would set a tickle that I would, at the end of the month, I would look at all of my opportunities, and anything at the end of the month that I did not advance the sales stage in the previous 21 days, I proactively demoted it a stage.
That's right.
So if it was at stage 5, but I didn't go to stage 6 in 21 days, I made it to stage 4. Even though there was no rhyme or reason to it, I just did it. And I did this as a reminder that we all know time kills all deals. Well, I was making sure of it because I was forcing myself to rewind deals that were not advancing. I had to advance the deal or it would rewind it on its own. And managers, there's nothing stopping you from enforcing the same kind of idea in your team.
That's right.
It really changes a mindset in pipeline because unlike a forecast where you're dealing with real deals and you're really dealing with that, bringing it all the way to the right so it closes, pipelines are fluid. Pipelines are fluid. They're not static. So we want them to flow back both directions, up and down. So because that's a healthy pipeline. It's not just the shape. It's that any given month, the units within that pipeline should change, but the shape shouldn't.
You know, if you've been around Hoffman for long enough, you know, we're like massive believers in the idea of energy and movement in deals and in pipeline.
Acceleration.
And it's that idea of like, let's just get things in motion. You know, when you were talking earlier about some of the things that reps can do for this in terms of like how they're managing their day, all of a sudden what I love about that, and this is something that when I used to manage BDR and inside teams, I did a lot of. What I love about that is it allows you to not just look at close won deals as the only barometer for your success in the role. You can look at things like, how many deals did I move to stage 5? That sometimes gives you that movement. It gives you that competitive edge. It gives you that feeling of accomplishment and winning. We know we're not closing deals all day long, so this gives us a different way to be able to look at things.
That's a great way of doing it. I mean, and you can have if you've got an organization where your deal cycle is long or your ramp up time for a new hire is long, you can be waiting a long time for a win.
That's right.
But a pipeline inspection, review, and inspiration, it probably does more for the enthusiasm and optimism of a sales org than any forecast meeting you can ever have. So for those reasons and more, separating the two, divide and conquer, take our advice and some of the points we're making, and let us know how it works for you. Don't be bashful in the comments, either here or on YouTube, on our YouTube channel. Let us know how this is working for you, and love to hear that kind of feedback.
Awesome. We'll see you soon, closers.
Absolutely, and as always, happy selling.